Okay, hi everyone. We are Team ROI Rangers from XLRI Jamshedpur. I, Satish, and my team members Deepak and Aishwarya will delve into the investment strategy we have developed for Swiggy Instamart.
If you grew up in the 90s or the early 2000s, you may recall Clippy. It was this tiny paperclip shaped character that would pop up ever so often whenever you would use good old fashioned Microsoft Word. So, if you were drafting an essay for school, Clippy would throw you a prompt. Something like, hey, you look like you're writing an essay, can I help you? And if you remember Clippy, you probably also recall it not being particularly helpful. But love it or hate it, for most of us, Clippy was our introduction to AI. Cut to January 2024, and ROI Rangers, a three-person team from XLRI Jamshedpur, proposed a tech-first strategy at the Ken case competition organized in association with Zerodha. And let me just say, their pitch got me thinking a whole lot about Clippy.
The ideal case for we hope to achieve will be to develop the personalized version of the app for each user. For example, a person who's into ordering healthy items on quick commerce would get the recommendation for that item the most, and therefore that would contribute to his retention as well as the lifetime value.
So, ROI Rangers had an elaborate strategy to make that happen. But the part that really stood out was a little owl called Insty. Insty is an AI assistant that'll pop up on your app and remind you about that packet of Blue Lays you bought at midnight and how you should get it again.
Basically, that little AI owl was one small part of their billion-dollar strategy focused on how artificial intelligence can make the whole experience of using Swiggy Instamart even better.
Inspired by successes like Duolingo, we will use AI-driven insights to engage with users with tailored app experiences. The aim is to increase purchase frequency by 20%, that is further embedding Swiggy in users' daily lives.
Now, if you are new here and haven't listened to the first episode of this series, I strongly suggest that you do. But for now, let me tell you what is at stake. 10 teams, 10 minutes, and 10 lakh rupees. 2 months ago, we posed a challenge to some of India's brightest and most creative minds at the country's top business schools.
In 3 sentences, the challenge before you is: number 1, you're a quick commerce company. Number 2, you have $1 billion. Number 3, how will you win? That's it.
That was Praveen Gopal Krishnan, the Chief Operating Officer of the Ken and the author of our newsletter, Nutgraph. Our in-house team headed by PGK shortlisted 10 teams out of nearly 100, and over 6 episodes, you will hear their ambitious and creative pitches, all rooted in the real world and all centered around 5 quick commerce platforms that have completely changed the way we all shop. But there can only be one winning strategy. One team with the best quick commerce strategy will go home with a 10 lakh rupee prize. So stick around to find out who wins. This episode is about Swiggy Instamart. You already heard ROI Rangers from XLRI. They would spend $1 billion on amping up tech and automation. They're up against Team Buzzolve from the Messa School of Business. I'm Rahel, and this is 1 billion in 10 minutes. Let's get into it.
Our metric of win is increasing profitability while we defend market share. So aggressively gaining market share is not something we were looking at. We more likely wanted to defend it, and then from there look at how sustainable unit economics will work out in the near future using this $1 billion.
So Team Buzzolve played what we call the optimization game. They essentially say, hey, we have $1 billion. We're going to spend a little bit towards everything. So a certain amount will go towards dark stores, a certain amount will go towards AI, and then a certain amount could possibly go towards something like category expansion.
So we surveyed over 100 people, asked them what they would like from Swiggy Instamart, and the predominant answer was alcohol and pharma. And so interestingly, we decided to go for pharma and post that Swiggy also launched the same event. So the timing was perfect. And in case of alcohol, we felt that the average beer costs around $200, and we already know there's a high demand for it. So we worked around some of the regulations, felt that this could be feasible in the future.
There you have it. Two drastically different strategies for Swiggy Instamart. What's interesting is that when we got our first round of submissions, the first thing that surprised us was that Swiggy had the fewest takers. Here's a company that just had its IPO in November, so naturally, it also has the most publicly available information about its business. It's one of the biggest players in the space, and yet, only 4 out of 92 teams actually picked it.
Okay, Swiggy Instamart really started this category. But today, if you ask people, it's probably the most invisible of the players. It's sort of gotten friend-zoned by customers. People prefer Zepto, people prefer Blinkit. People talk about those brands more than Swiggy Instamart, even though it continues to be, depending on who you ask, either the second largest or the third largest market share after Blinkit.
That was Rohin Dharmakumar. He's the founder and CEO of the Ken. He recently wrote about the quick commerce companies that these teams decided to role play as. And his hunch is that people didn't pick Swiggy Instamart because, well, it just isn't that exciting anymore.
When a brand gets friend zoned, one is what did the others do? And the other is what did this one not do? And I think it's a mixture of both, right? I don't think it's either or. So definitely Blinkit and Zepto have been much more aggressive at catching up and making themselves heard, launching new products and services, listening to consumers. And I think it's probably because of the fact that they were later entrants, so they tried harder. They did a much better job. Conversely, I think at some point, in the run-up to its IPO, maybe over a year and a half, Swiggy sort of took things maybe not too easy, but on autopilot.
So, how then do you build a strong recall for a brand like Swiggy Instamart? Well, both teams, ROI Rangers from XLRI and Buzzolve from Messa School of Business, thought about the problem in completely different ways. I spoke to both teams in the run-up to the finale to understand what their strategies were and how they were thinking about Instamart's strengths and weaknesses. Here's what they had to say. Okay, ROI Rangers, welcome to the podcast. Let's talk about Insty. Whose idea was that, and why did you think that this was what Swiggy Instamart really needed?
Yeah, I used Duolingo a lot across the last 2, 3 years. Once I observed this duo character in Duolingo, I read about it. How is it operationalized on the app? So there's a big endeavor behind this, which Duolingo is doing. They do A/B testing, which is basically comparing two appearances or actions and seeing which appeal to the customer more. So this is done continuously and without me knowing. It just happens on the app continuously on the back end. And the solution which is more favorable keeps getting implemented so that I am still coming to the app every day.
That's Satish from Team ROI Rangers. I have to say, that little owl AI mascot he designed along with his two teammates Aishwarya and Deepak is rather reminiscent of the Duolingo owl. In the context of Instamart, they are thinking in terms of personalization. So like on Duolingo, the owl will remind you that you missed a lesson or have a new skill to unlock. Insty will remind you of the groceries you buy every day, things like milk or veggies. The idea is to keep bringing people back to the app every single day and building that habit to keep them engaged. Well, it does make sense. But why did they pick Swiggy Instamart in the first place?
Yeah, we did consider that the two biggest food delivery apps are Swiggy and Zomato, at least in Taiwan cities, right? So the potential of having us convert those food delivery customers into quick commerce customers, that was very lucrative. That seemed a very good idea at the beginning. And Zomato was going through Blinkit, so it kind of separated the brand identities for its quick commerce and food delivery. So then Swiggy, we could do that. Swiggy, at least we had the riders even in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities where our strategy develops further for the Kirana Marts. There we already had the riders for Swiggy.
They also felt like the scope for innovation at Swiggy would be a lot bigger than anywhere else.
About a few years ago, Swiggy had this vertical in their own company called Swiggy Labs, which they used for the tech side of their app, and they used to develop other solutions for the customers' engagement and increasing the retention. So that also told us as the outsiders, that told us that Swiggy has a very innovation focused leadership, and they are willing to invest a lot into new ideas and implementing them, right?
Right, but were you guys thrown off when you realized that, only four other teams out of the 92 had actually chosen Instamart in the first place?
Yeah, we thought our either there was something very wrong with our thought process, or there was something very right with our thought process, because we're going against the grain, right? And in these B schools, we have subjects like game theory, which is basically trying to guess what a competitor is doing and then doing something to surpass them, right? So those kind of triple guessing, quadruple guessing moves. But maybe we didn't even go through that. We just thought this was best for us.
Now, if you listen to the last episode, you may recall Team Voldemort's billion-dollar strategy for Big Basket. Like with Team Voldemort, a big part of the ROI Rangers strategy also involved partnering up with Kirana stores.
So I believe in tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities, this model is more scalable, right? Because in our hometowns, we have seen that most of the groceries still get purchased from Kirana stores. And even if not, what my mom would do is call the Kirana store owner, and then she'll be like, "Ki, this is the order that I'll have to place. So you just write it, I'll send you over the WhatsApp, and then you just get it delivered to my home. And it will come either till the evening or till the next day afternoon, right?"
Yeah, Ashra said they send the shopkeeper their list and the items come to home. So this exactly the same activity we thought about onboarding onto this app, right? And how we could help the Kirana store is we would help the Kirana stores in the sourcing of the material. We would help them get the articles which they want to keep in their shop, but they can't because of any agreements between the companies or such. So that we wanted to help the Kirana store as well. So this was kind of a symbiotic thing we thought of.
A big part of their strategy is upping the operational efficiency of dark stores. And they want to do it by incorporating AI to improve the prediction model at warehouses and reduce the checkout time at dark stores. On the app front, of course, we've already spoken about how they want to personalize the whole experience and increase engagement.
So there you have it. That is their pitch. Now they are up against Buzzolve from Messa School. This also happens to be the only non-legacy B school in the running for the 10 lakh rupee grand prize. So I was curious to know whether Rakshita, Nevin and Pratishta were feeling the pressure.
I would not discount the, a little bit of a pressure that we have on us, but definitely it's a very fun and enriching experience, I would say, overall.
That was Rakshita. She said the upside was that case competitions like this one were a central part of their curriculum at Messa. They do them every week or so they felt fairly confident that they could tackle this one. Okay, but how did you guys decide to kind of get together and like form a team for this particular case competition, right? What's the backstory there?
Yeah, so how it worked is since, like mentioned, like we have a lot of case comps internally also, and every time we try to work with a different team to understand each other's competencies. There are hundreds of us, so we've got a chance to work with, I wouldn't say everyone, but we've definitely worked previously before, and we love the energy that we have with each other at the same place. But at the more technical side of it, we have very complementing skill sets. Like Nevin here, he comes from a strategy and ops background. Pratishta has had her own business in marketing herself, and I come from a background of hospitality and communications. So we that diversity and but that common goal to get things done and win things. I think that's what has brought us together.
Ah, okay, that's interesting context. With that in mind, can you walk me through, your billion-dollar strategy for Swiggy Instamart? Pratishtha, do you want to take this one?
So it was like we decided a key metric that we wanted to focus on, which was market share with profitability. And that led to the complete discussions around what can make us profitable, how do we increase the market share, how do we bring that, build that loyalty among consumers. And that's how then we further expanded onto a lot of strategies. But the core crux, if you want to ask, our whole objective was to increase the market share of Swiggy while being profitable.
And the way they want to do that is by spending a little bit of money on everything. So 600 million for dark store expansion, 70 million on inventory management, 35 million on marketing, another 35 million towards entering tier 2 cities. They also want to expand categories. Specifically, they want to bring in alcohol and pharma, like we spoke about just a little while ago.
Yeah, so if I have to say about alcohol specifically, it is definitely one of the key revenue bringing for the government side, and even the customer stickiness, the AOV, everything can be boosted with alcohol. And if you are asking about why the regulatory issues, 10-minute delivery wouldn't have been possible maybe 5 years back, or it wasn't there at all in the world. So just because we are having regulatory issues at this current time, that never limited us from choosing alcohol as a great opportunity that we will go for. Hence, it's basically we are trying to break the norms. Just because we have something of an obstacle in place doesn't mean that we should just stop there.
So there you have it. Those were the two teams that chose Swiggy Instamart. ROI Rangers from XLRI with Insty and Kirana partnerships, and Team Buzzolve from Messa School with its optimization, alcohol and pharma strategy. Only one team can make it to the top 5. I'm going to let Praveen, the COO here at the Ken, tell you which one did.
So the interesting thing about ROI Rangers is this was the only team that went all in on tech. They decided to go with a tech-first solution. Now, the thing with that kind of a solution is that that's actually a very double-edged sword, right? So the reason why it's a double-edged sword is because that kind of a model where you have this assistant that sort of like lurks around like a logo and keeps talking to you and tells you what to do, what not to do, is something that is completely like it's almost a meme in tech. Many people have tried variants of this, right? It's one of those ideas that sound very nice on paper, but honestly, it doesn't really work face to face when you like really interact with tech. Human beings don't interact with tech like that. So I think that's one. The second thing, what one could imagine a future where this becomes much more relevant today or in the future because of AI, right? I think for the judges, ROI Rangers was a better team between the two. Buzzolve was still a good strategy, but somehow it didn't really stick. So that really made a difference.
So ROI Rangers from XLRI was the team that made it to the top 5 for its Swiggy Instamart strategy. It's one step closer to that 10 lakh rupee prize. Next up is Blinkit. Thank you for listening to 1 Billion in 10 Minutes, a 6-part mini-series based on the Ken's first ever case competition. This episode was produced by me, Rahel Philipose, and Nuha Bubere. It was edited by Rajiv CN. Don't forget to like and share this episode and also write to me at rahel@the-ken.com. Let me know what you think about this podcast as well as which pitch you thought was stronger.